Well, it's indeed a good morning, I must say, and not just in Lagos.
I'm looking for the word celebratory morning.
And not that one you were trying to say before.
No.
No.
We'll come to that one. There's been a lot of flossing, nihilipilification going around, but we're not going there.
Yeah, it actually is indeed a good morning, not just in Lagos, but in Ibadan, or your state especially, and then across Nigeria, as you know, those children and the teachers from Oriire local government area have finally been released.
It'll be good to know exactly what happened, so we're hoping to speak with the former director of the DSS to give us some insight on it, but it's been days. It's also instructive that I think some hours before the release, the governor was in the governor of Oyo State was, I think it was in Bauchi, speaking about the fact that governors are not empowered to do stuff that they're supposed to do. I mean, of course, that makes, it's not a new argument. It's something that has been on for a while. What would be good is, what I think would have been added, by the handlers of the governor would have been, there is already the conversation around the state police, how well that went or is going. I think that is something that governors themselves should be interested in, even though the governors collectively have made a statement about it, but we're waiting for how that's also going to pan out. But concerning the rescue that you talked about, Joke, it's cheering to know that it's a collective.
Yeah.
We understand that almost all of our security agencies were involved. The army, the police, several of them, including the DSS and all, were involved in that effort. It will be very, very good to know. I hope that Mr. Mike Ejiofor has joined us so that we can really look at the conversation around how exactly that went, because needless to say, it's cheering. There is no other word to use. It's really very, very cheering. I saw a video this morning. Was shared. Someone shared a video with me of the celebration.
Oh yes.
Commercial.
Yes.
You saw it.
Yes, I saw it. Huge celebration.
Yes.
Huge.
And huge celebration.
It was very. What's the word now?
Contagious. Yes, it is.
You could feel the excitement.
Absolutely.
And because even when it first happened, although you hear pockets of kidnappings here and there, maybe in a remote farm in Ogun, and just little incidents, but they're not little, because one life is precious.
Absolutely.
You understand? But one of that magnitude, that even someone was killed in the process, it rarely happens in the Southwest. So it was strange, to hear that something like that happened. So, of course, when the children were rescued, it was celebrations across board.
They really couldn't contain themselves. Everyone trooped out en masse. And it's also good to know that from what information is available, about 8 of those criminals have been arrested.
Yes.
And that, according to the president's spokesman, no compromise was made
they
by
closed in
government
on them until they were forced to, abandon the cause, if I can put it, if I can put it that way.
Anyway, that would be our first.
And they were trying to negotiate freedom of another terrorist.
Yes, in fact, that was their condition.
Yeah.
What's arrant anyway?
Arrant nonsense.
They'll find their day in court, and let's hear all the flossing, nothing, nihilipilification that they're gonna be speaking. Yeah, it's a new word I just found.
Yes, and he's been trying to make me say it. No. I will say the verb. Say the first part. Nothing.
No, flossy.
Flossy, nihilipilification.
Yes.
Arrant nonsense that the terrorists are talking about.
That's pretty much what it is. So we rejoice with you in Oriire local government of Oyo State, Gbomosho area to be specific. Congratulations, and we pray that this doesn't happen again. Now that there's a lot more consciousness in that part. Again, as I said, we're hoping to give you an insight into exactly what happened. So that's going to be the first item on our menu this morning. Oriire children rescued.
Yes, and they were looking quite well, I must say. And of course, something connected to that, next is Insurgent Amnesty Program reaches breaking point.
Most certainly, most certainly. Then we will also talk about systems failures behind the PFIPC scandal. That's still a bit dramatic, but I'm almost certain that Nollywood is going to take this on at some point.
It would make for a good movie. Right, and the lifestyle, the psychology of mental exhaustion.
Why are you tired?
No, why are you always tired?
Always.
That's where you get it. You can be tired, but when you're always tired, that's something else entirely.
And I hope our artist of the week is not tired. I'm not going to give out the gender, but what I can say is someone that's been in many, many, many movies. That's what I'm going to tell you. So in the meantime, do yourself a favor. Grab your cup of cocoa.
A cup of whatever. A cup of something.
Cocoa.
Or just water.
Or cocoa. Or whatever it is. And
note I didn't say coffee. I said water. That's a new one.
You are repentant.
Oh, welcome back from that short break. Of course, we did say that our, major topic today is, of course, the rescue of the children who were kidnapped from Ahoro Esiele in Oriire local government area of Oyo State, Ogbomoso to be specific. I don't know how many people watched online to see that video that went viral of the celebrations, huge celebrations, in Ogbomoso to celebrate their return. So we'll get to that in a bit when we discuss it. But another equally important thing we want to talk about is the Insurgent Amnesty Program, which indeed many believes has reached a breaking point, Ayo. Right. I mean, where do you draw the line, between reintegrating repentant people into the society without knowing whether or not they will be...
They are still compromised.
Yeah, they're still compromised, yeah.
There's something that's been said over and over again, that we're fighting more of an ideological war than a kinetic one. So when we find ourselves in this situation, that's the first thing I think we should be dealing with, and I'm hoping that our guests will be able to help us understand what all of that is about.
Right, so some our guests this morning, we have several.
Yeah, because I don't know, I hope you can hear me well.
I can. I can, certainly. So who are our guests this morning?
Well, we understand, there are three of them, but we understand that Major General Cecil Esekhaigbe, retired, has since joined us for the program. He's a defense analyst and former registrar of the Nigerian Defense Academy. Thank you for joining us this morning, sir.
Nice having you.
Yeah. Let's go straight to it. We hope our two other guests will join us shortly. There is this, I also see that Dr. Oyewole Ogine has also joined us. He's a senior researcher at the Bonn International Center for Conflict Studies. We appreciate your time this morning, sir.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We expect one more person, Director General of the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to join us shortly. But let me start with you, Major General Cecil Esekhaigbe. First of all, let me have your own take on this conversation around the release of those kids in Ogbomoso. It's not what we're talking about, but let me have your thoughts on that. We know that a lot of all the security agencies were involved, and we also understand that the GOC in Ibadan was the one that led that rescue effort. What are your thoughts on it? There are those who are arguing it took a little too long. What now about the children, their psychological well-being and all of that? What are your thoughts, General?
Yeah, first of all, let me congratulate the security agencies for, a move away from the penrose scenario where we'll continue to climb and descend and they're not going anywhere. What we've just seen is a combination of some factors, like the interagency cooperation that we've always talked about. You find that this operation was conducted, with a clear combination of, effort of all the security agencies. And two, that has become a paradigm shift we have always opted for, which is like, don't approach these things as if it's a conventional warfare. So what they have simply done here is, targeting and dismantling the networks, and before the final assault on the rescue of the school children and their teachers. So there was a deliberate intelligence gathering. There was a deliberate follow-up of the processes, and above all, there was this, rejection of, negotiation to pay ransom and some other stuff. So I think if we continue with this trajectory, we will get somewhere.
And Dr. Guinea, your thoughts as well on, that news that broke yesterday evening of the rescue of the children and their teachers in Oriire?
Thank you very much. As General said, I think I will say, yeah, it's a good news. We thank all those who involved in rescuing of the kids, but that's also is a long pattern on the assault on our educational system across the country, whereby a lot of young girls and boys are deprived access to education due to the insurgency. I think we should reflect on this and take it as just one of the symptoms that are addressed in the larger scale of the insecurity in the country. So also, we need to give credit to the community people, because the community that are affected, it's important, because the government cannot do anything without their support. Intelligence gathering provision has to take place when the community are cooperative. So I think that makes it much easier, because, for example, if you look at it, this forest area, which we call the Oriire National Forest Forest Reserve, in January, there was a bit of attack there, where the guard were attacked and some weapons were carted away by this group, and where the monitoring unit from Ibadan tried to continue to monitor the place. But what is important is that they only focus on where the event happened, within the same Oriire local government. So, and about 60 kilometers or 30 kilometers away is where this happened. So that shows that there should be some sort of consistency on how we address our hard-to-reach space, and this is also a concern that I think we need to reflect on. Secondly, we do not have quite a lot of social workers, psychologists, and others. I think these are things that we still need to develop over time in order to have this long-term perspective of how to address the situation of the younger people or people victims of armed conflict. I think this is also things that we should broadly reflect on. So lastly, what I will say about the adoption is if you look at this forest area, the armed group operating in the forest cannot exist without provision of food, water, food, petroleum, energy to power themselves. And this is exactly what the security did. They cut off this, deprived them access to that, try to make sure that others who also provide ancillary service to them were not able to do that. And in doing so, they were able to, cut their power. So it's beyond the weapon they possess. It's beyond their knowledge of the terrain. And this is exactly what we want to see in the North Central, across Kwara, Kebbi, Sokoto, Zamfara. When you deal with this, you can deal with quite a lot of things. Thank you.
I guess we'll be talking about, that a little further. But to the substantive issue, the connection is in the arrests, the criminals that have been arrested. General, let me come to you on that. The criminals have been arrested. Well, some criminals have been arrested. We understand 8 of them have been arrested. We also understand that there was a kingpin that, having been arrested, was the basis upon which this guy said, look, if you don't release this guy, we will not also release the people that have been arrested. Now, tomorrow, now that they are in correctional facilities, because they don't call it prison anymore, we expect that the correctional facility will actually correct them. At least that is what it is supposed to achieve, if I'm not being too naive or oversimplifying the issue. So post-correction, one expects that there will be some kind of recovery from the ills to what they were to society, and then there will be good men and good women in the society. If tomorrow these guys who have been arrested now come out and say they have repented, or the state says they have repented and consequently they should be reintegrated to society, I guess that's the issue here now. Repentant militants. First of all, from your experience, General, is there such a thing?
Well, this is where we have to be very, very careful. This issue of rehabilitation and integration of, some criminal elements who have said that they have laid out their arms and, ready to be integrated into the society. It's a deliberate act. It's not wholly appropriate and it's not wholly inappropriate. Because if you have to do such things, you have to make sure the rule of law has been followed. Rule of law has been followed strictly, and that for this time you must first of all, segregate to know those who are genuinely, repenting and those who are, feigning repenting, and there have to be also a very straight and strict processes, that are recognized by law. When you do this reintegration and this thing. First of all, you cannot reintegrate somebody who has not be thoroughly investigated and who has not faced justice. Justice is key in anything you want to do in society. If you want to just say because they have been arrested, first and foremost, they have been there in the correctional facility now as it's just a holding strategy until they face, investigation and eventual prosecution. So we cannot downplay the investigation and prosecution and talk about rehabilitating them. Justice is key in human interactions. So, and without justice, we're just, scratching the surface.
So you are putting conditions to the reintegration, that justice must, first of all, must not just be done, but must have been seen to have been done before they can be reintegrated.
Perfectly. Okay. Because if the processes are not strictly followed, and the rule of law is not key in the negotiations and conversations. And, people just jump into this reintegration process without knowing the pros and cons. You integrate somebody who is willing to change, who has displayed some sense of attitudinal change, and who has also understood that what he or she did was wrong and it should not be done again. So it's not a one blanket fits all. So these are processes that you must be followed before you can have a meaningful conversation.
Well, Dr. Ogini, I believe that you have thoughts on that issue as well. You have done some work in that space, particularly around the Lake Chad Basin, which had their loyalty between the state and armed groups. So in your opinion, how does the presence of these so-called repentant terrorists being integrated into civilian life, how, in your opinion, does it balance out?
Thank you very much. I must say that we have to try to not oversimplify who are offenders in this situation, because based on our experience, we know people in the community high-risk area that are forced to actually join the group, and in the process, they had to actually survive at that time due to lack of state presence or limited state presence. So, and we have people who have given birth into the camp of the armed group, and they grew up. I've interviewed quite a lot of them who actually said they spent their 12 years, only what they know is weapon and others. They were born there and they grew up there. There are low-risk combatants and there are high-risk combatants. What I would say is that, for example, Operation Save the Corridor, for example, they do a lot of screening and others. And there are quite a lot of programs, those who are high-risk offenders who have to face justice. There are quite a lot of things that have been done at the national and the state level, and there are still ongoing ones that are going on DDR, the radicalization, demobilization, and reintegration. But there are also other issues, I will say. For example, the patchy or uncoordinated reintegration being implemented at the state level is a cause for concern, because reintegration is very expensive, and the community has to really have a say on that. The people affected, which is a kind of victim-centered approach, need to take place. And of course, there are quite a lot of things that we can talk about. For me, I have 3 points that we can talk on how you strengthen the accountability framework, so that the local people, the populace can trust in how these people are prosecuted. There are processes from screening, from identification, and they are different also from the state level. There are lots going on at the national level. I think you will hear quite more soon about that, on how each state have to be contextualized, because the conflict in the Northwest is different from the conflict in Lake Chad Basin. In the Northwest, we are dealing with a situation whereby banditry and insurgency overlap, and the grievances between ethnic community also create pathway. So if you want to talk about a kind of reintegration in that instances, you have to take into consideration these who are affected, who are not. For example, if herders cattle were rescued or were custodied by armed group, or the vigilante group confiscated that without verifying whether they belong to any armed group or not. These are all other issues that this context of DDR framework from the federal government is still also addressing. There are also aspects of strengthening monitoring and long-term reintegration capability, because the capacity to actually monitor, usually when we have support from our international partners, they are not for a long time. They are usually 2 years, 1 year. So it's not sufficient to actually keep things running, to be able to reach out to the community, to allow community to heal first, and to prevent the situation whereby ex-combatants are forced on the community, and to also prevent the situation whereby the ex-combatants actually are doing much more better than those who are affected by the conflict. I think these are all other issues that we need to talk. Lastly, prosecution is very costly. Imagine you have over 100,000 people, surrendering, and then how much are you going to do with our system to be able to do prosecution for everyone? It takes a whole lot. They have to do sorting, they have to do screening, they have to do profiling, but that does not mean that should not happen, because when they do this profiling, they distinguish between low profile, and then they distinguish between the high profile. So the low profile, for example, I give you an example, the women who were actually kidnapped during the operation and forced to marry them. And this also the other part. But there are also instances where we have women being framed as victims. These are not straightforward. We have women who actively participated in the conflict, who carry weapons, who provided intelligence. You can see what happened day before yesterday, or yesterday reported on the person who was caught with drugs. And so it's not just about gender, but there are quite a lot of nuisance to this, and we have to pay attention to this. I think from the government perspective, government need to show publicly, of course, that we are doing something. There's a transparency and accountability on how we are doing it and the result we are having. I think this is also one point that we need to discuss.
Thank you. And if I come to you, General Esehagwe, from a military leadership point of view, how does this affect the morale of troops on the front line, knowing that after all their hard work, ensuring that these, terrorists, criminals surrender, disarm them, and all that, then there's now the issue of reintegrating them into the society, especially following fatal incidents such as ambushes that actually involved so-called repentant terrorists?
Thank you very much. That is a very, very apt question. That brings us to the heart of the issue. And like I said initially, when you want to do reintegration, I think justice is a factor. Like you rightly said, these are elements who took up arms, and you see how they have been able to inflict, casualties, both in injuries and in death, to recognize and legitimate forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Then you come up with a program called integration without justice. Now, these troops feel demoralized, and as a matter of fact, they're able to recognize some of these elements who were hitherto terrorists and terrorizing them. And you bring them in, as a matter of fact, without that rigorous process of screening, without actually knowing and determining who are these elements. So you bring them in, it's a very, very, sickening thing, and it dampens the morale of troops and their commanders. So we must also depoliticize the issue of this integration and rehabilitation of these elements, because it's very demoralizing when justice is not key, when it's not done properly, and when, we should not term, people who are laid out their arms as victims of, an assault. Like Professor Guinea said, one thing I disagree with him is the issue of prosecution is too long. No, there are things like special courts, so that is too long should not, be prejudicial to justice at all. There are special courts that are brought up to try these elements and get justice. So if we say the prosecution is going to take long and we bunch all of them together, we are heading to, a very dead end. And I can also assure you there have been evidences that have shown that some of these so-called repentant criminal elements, even after integration, have gone back to take their arms. And don't forget, this is economic determinism. So what plans are made to reintegrate them into the better society, and how can they get the money that were being paid, by these criminal networks? So it's a deliberate attempt that we must address holistically and correctly too. Like I said again, without justice, you are nowhere.
But, I'm not sure I really got your points on the morale of your officers and men who are really usually responsible for these arrests and all. Add to that the conversation around correctional facilities. We have correctional facilities all over the place. And do you think our systems, correctional systems, are equipped enough or strong enough to really correct? Because the expectation is that after correction, they're reintegrated into society. Do you think we have that kind of system, General?
First of all, let me reemphasize what I said about the morale, of the troops. Now, you see some elements, criminal elements that fought you yesterday, that killed some of your colleagues, and you see them the next day say they are being reintegrated into the society. Then you start to ask questions. Where is justice here? So did I just fight for nothing? Did my colleague just die for nothing? Why are they bringing this back? And how are we sure that this guy that you have brought back will not sabotage our further military operations? So this is where the morale comes in. Okay. If there is no justice, if there is no clear evidence that this is going to serve as deterrence to others, the morale of the troops will sag. Now, back to the correctional service thing. Well, we changed the name of prison to correctional service, and I'm sure, to show that there should be some paradigm shift from what it used to be to the core nerve of correctional service. That is to bring in inmates in, do them through some trainings, they do some courses, they go some through psychological evaluations, and they even go into religious issues, like those who are Christians, they attend churches. Those who are Muslim, they promote prayers and religious practices. So if this is done correctly, well, it's actually a correctional service. But when you bring in people together as inmates, and first of all, the living conditions which they are not conducive, they even become more hardened while they are there. So how do you correct a man that is not living in a good place and the correctional thing becomes, a mirage.
Okay.
So we should learn how to put our things properly well. And if it is done properly and the elements of corrections are pronounced, then it serves the purpose.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, General. Let's bring in Dr. Joseph Ochongu, who is the Director General of the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thanks for joining us this morning, Dr. Ochongu. The conversation is around repentant criminals and all of that. I'm sure you've been listening to the two gentlemen who've been speaking with us for a bit. What are your thoughts?
Thank you very much, and it's great to be here and to be part of this conversation, which is very topical, relevant, and very apt in coming. I think that it's important to say that the way the issues around repentant Boko Haram or repentant insurgents have been carried out, I think that there have been a whole lot of exaggeration. First and foremost, there is no any official confirmation to say that the Nigerian military, has recruited, repentant Boko Haram. At least not to my knowledge that I officially know that there have been such repentant Boko Haram being recruited. I know that the Nigerian military is working closely with the civilian joint task force, which is very proper for counterinsurgency operations. It's equally important also to state that the processes of the reintegrations of those associated with Boko Haram, with insurgency, because why I say those associated is that there is a very thorough profiling system, that goes on, with the military, as well as the Federal Ministry of Justice, the Nigerian Correctional Services, as well as other respective state institutions. There are people who come out, of insurgency occupied territories on their own. There are those who are captured in combat, so a profiling system goes on. And I think that as of today, the count is that the Nigerian state has well over close to 11,000, people who are set for prosecution. That is the hardened ones, the fighters, commanders, and all elements of that, who have been caught, in combat or surrendered in combat, but they are hard ones. The ones, that go to Operation Safe Corridors are the soft ones, either those who their communities were overrun, those who are to one level or the other associated, with the fighting group. Those ones are much more susceptible to such kind of programming, and all that. There are also those who are innocent. So the process is a very, very tedious process. Where in the military, you have the military intelligence, you have the military police, and even the military legal services, working in conjunctions with the Nigerian Correctional Services, as well as the policing component of it, as well as the Ministry of Justice, the Federal Ministry of Justice component of it. So there are men and women, who are actually working on behalf of the state, and delivering, the kind of services that needs to be delivered. There are certain things around issues of amnesty, around issues of integration, reintegration that we need to look at. The fact is, the first thing is that, one, the condition, what are the socioeconomic conditions, for reintegration? If you finish 6 months reintegration, is it enough? And I think another missing gap, in the entire process is also the component of peace building and reconciliation, which hitherto, have been lacking in the entire reintegration processes, because you now have to look at both the likely perpetrators as well as the victims. You need to create a balance. You don't just get people who are associated or people who are captured. There are some people who were captured at age 6, and had been in that camp, till maybe age 16, which means that they would have gone through a socialization process of violence. So if you are desocializing those people, to make them much more functional element to a normal society, there needs to be a program.
But Dr. Chongu, just a quick one. If you can, I hope you can hear me, Dr. Chongu. Just quickly, and if you can do this in 30 seconds, because I'd like us to take Dr. Guinea a moment or two. I asked General a question the other time, or was it Dr. Guinea himself, about the fact that this is an ideological movement, not, even though there is an economic angle to it, as General has mentioned. We are fighting what many people have called an ideological warfare. So the motivation is not just now, it's been there for a long time. So how do we determine that someone who has held an ideology in his head for a very, very long time has been rewired away from the initial ideology that drew them into this criminality in the first place before we reintegrate them into society? If you can do that in about 60 seconds, sir.
Yeah, I think that is why if you hear me talk about socialization and desocialization. And that is why as a state entity we need to do things much more scientifically. That is to say, for example, if somebody has been socialized in violence in extremist ideology, what time duration, does it take, to desocialize such an element to make him functional to society? So there is a component, of the entire reintegration processes that we need to, put on board and make it much more functional. As we speak, there are attempts to try to make a much more better coordination from what states are doing separately. What states are doing, it's not meeting some of the standards, that are there. So the socialization process and the re-socialization process, needs to be very, very strong. If that component is not strong, then there could be a likely relapse, to some of those things. And I think that is where we need to work more, because when people are socialized into a particular ideology, you need to begin to reorientate them, desocialize them, and make them much more relevant, to normal society and get them reintegrated, get them much more functional. I think we have a much more deeper problem. I think that what we are doing largely is a bit not too deep as the problem is. So we need to resource the reintegration process. We need to make it much more economically viable, in the sense that as the state is putting in fund to reintegrate these people, the people too must be in a very right position to contribute, resources in terms of their hard work, either in farms, in state farms, and all that, to ensure that the products from those places to ourselves, to make it much more sustainable.
Right.
So we need to think much more deeper, to do it differently and achieve the kind of results that we need.
Right. Dr. Guinea, stay on that, please. And there's a lot that's going into this. We've spoken a lot of what is being done, what hasn't been done, what could be done. So what are your thoughts on, the things that we're not getting right as per this reintegration? The school of thought right now is, why are we even reintegrating repentant militants in the first place? But even if we must, give people a second chance, and, those people that were, infiltrated into the terrorist camps did not start out to be terrorists in the first place, some of them. And they were just people that were dragged into it by, some economic issues, social issues that we've been discussing. So what would you do, differently? We've talked about the reintegration process. We've not gone deep enough. There's not enough resource. It's not economically viable. The communities are not in the right position, to contribute their own quota. What will you do differently than what is being done now, if you were to, pitch in?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's also very important. I think the communication of the actors involving in integration, the mobilization, I think they need to come on board on here more often to be able to make some clarity. As somebody who have worked closely at that, our institute is which co-chair IDDRS in the United Nations, and on this subject is something that we also look at more deeply when it comes to the DDR, and we are more critical on what needs to change. And I can tell you, first, for example, you have this sort of uncoordinated reintegration process. The first thing is to have generally the harmonized national DDR mechanism that can help to measure and transparently build trust in the public on how things are done. But I must tell you that it's not every information that can be in public. For example, on the profiling and all that, there are certain elements that will not go to public, because if you go to public, then the armed group will take advantage of this and they will compromise it. So currently, there are quite a lot that are being done on DDR at the national level. But at the state level too, there are also issues that we need to talk about, whereby people have been, the armed group are told to come out to negotiate with them, and they will tell them how they will be reintegrated. So I think this is where the issue is, and we need to do it differently, because there has to be a clear pathway if something wants to happen, if you want to take associate out. On the issue of justice, yes, it's very important. You cannot reintegrate offender into community that have not healed. Victim must come first. Economic victim, people who are experiencing quite a lot, is important. Now, you mentioned aspect of economy. We need to know that we are dealing with two actors, the bandit group and the insurgent group. The bandit group are not necessarily actors with ideology. However, they are having social grievances around their activities, and they use that as a narrative to be able to perpetuate this sort of violence. So for the insurgent group, I think you made very clear point here, because I give you, for example, there was a young guy I was interviewing. I said, how were you recruited? They were taken, first they kidnapped the imam, after which the imam were forced to train the young people. For almost 6 months, they were locked inside just to learn. Then afterward, they were taken to the camp, and they were asked to kill their parents. And then afterwards, since they don't have anybody anymore, then they can do anything to anyone. So just to tell you how this happened. In the camp itself, they learn quite a lot. I've interviewed people who said, I learned Arabic in the camp and all those things. So they have those specialists who do those things. But what we need to know is that it is not all these actors that are actually exposed to violence. We have actors that are victims also of circumstance, but we should not simplify this. So, and that is the reason why we need to still have what we call exit support, to see that those who want to come out, please come out. That does not actually deprive people from facing justice. And this is what I want to say to General. People have to face justice. They have to be prosecuted. They have to do other things. But the other element that you need to know is that we cannot invest so much in reintegration if the community that are affected are in a poor condition. It will boomerang. And no matter what we do, the socio-economic situation of the community affected by conflict have to be addressed first. And then reintegration should also take the pattern of taking in their perspective of who they want to have to be in their society and who they don't want to be in their society. The government apparatus has a possibility to force through traditional ruler or through politicians to force people who they don't want in their community. We need to pay attention to this. There are instances of people going back to the forest. We call it bush. Going back to the forest. After they pass through certain things, they don't have skill, they don't have products. But there are also success stories of somebody that I track from Operation Save the Corridor, who moved to Madagali, started doing shoe cobbling, and I tracked the same person to find out Cameroon, which I mean. So there are a bunch of mixed outcomes there. So we need to improve on the long term.
It sounded like, my apologies, Dr. Ogini, it sounded like we are not really close to what I would call a convenient, very convivial, safe, I don't know, a situation where we can have known bandits or known criminals who have repented, so to speak, integrated into society. It's looking like we are not there yet, because the issues that are being raised by the general about the morale of the men and officers, the issues being raised by you, Dr. Ogene, about the cost of prosecution and all of that, the issues being raised by Dr. Chongu about the fact that it's an ideological warfare, and how do we reintegrate them by decriminalizing them mentally and all of that. It seems we're quite far from it. The only hope now is that at least at some point we know that we have to get there. The conversation has started. How we take it from here, I guess we'll have to know who should be taking the lead in that regard. Also, we have to know the general has pointed to the administration of justice as crucial to that particular part.
Certainly, and I do hope we'll get there someday. Just as these things take time. See, America, they celebrated 250 years of democracy the other day. It takes time to get there, but are we on the right path? And I think we need these, experts that we've interviewed today to help the government.
Give us perspective.
Give us more perspective and, point us in the right direction.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here. We've had Major General Cecil Iseka-Igbe, retired, the defense analyst and former registrar of the Nigerian Defense Academy. Thank you so much for your time. We've had Dr. Oyewole Ogene, senior researcher at the Bonn International Center for Conflict Studies. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time, as well as Dr. Joseph Ochongu, Director General of the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution. We know that it cost you a little bit to join us this morning, even though virtually. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being a part of this conversation. Now, we promised that we would have a conversation around the freedom of the children in Oyo State. That and more when we return.
Welcome back to Sunrise, and as promised, we did open the program with that good news from Oriire local government area of Oyo State about the rescue of the children and teachers who are abducted from Ahuru Esienle community in Ogbomosho, and the good news of their rescue. That was by, several security agencies were involved in that rescue, and I believe that they have been planning it for some time, but for security reasons, of course, we cannot divulge all the information and the planning process. But I do know that at a point, the Air Force leadership went to meet Governor Seyi Makinde in Ibadan to talk about collaboration and to see how the Air Force can use its aerial surveillance to locate the children and the teachers where they're being kept, and the logistics that it'll take to get to them. And that breakthrough finally happened at some point. I think could have been yesterday night, could have been the day before. We're not quite sure exactly when it happened, but the good news is that it did happen. And let's talk more about this. So we're joined from our Abuja studios by the former Director, Department of State Services, Mr. Mike Ejiofor. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
Right. By the time the news eventually broke that these children were rescued, I know that you probably would have had an inkling as to what's going on and how it's happening. Of course, you would not be able to discuss it with anyone too, because of the precarious situation. But what are your thoughts on this particular rescue mission, and the fact that it had to involve so many security agencies, and the peculiarity of this? Because as we've been saying, abductions and kidnappings of this magnitude rarely take place in the Southwest, but here we are. So what are your thoughts on this rescue mission and the fact that it was a success, and officials say that there were no negotiations, no ransoms paid, just clean rescue of those kidnapped victims?
Yeah, first of all, I must congratulate the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Commend all the agencies, security agencies that were involved in the operation, because this shows that we can achieve a lot through our joint efforts. This was achieved through a lot of coordination, cooperation, and synergy among all the security agencies. And of course, you know that the operations must be intelligence driven. Before I go into my reaction, I think it's important to note here or to find out what actually happened. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah. Okay. So the kidnap was orchestrated by Ansaru. Of course, you know that Ansaru broke away from Boko Haram in 2012 because of disagreement over their operations. The Ansaru is known for, targeting public places, churches, schools, and Western interests and expatriates. So that has been their major target, and that was where they had a great disagreement and they broke out. It's important I give this little background because Ansaru on itself, the leader of Ansaru, Abbas, has been declared wanted for over 13 years by United States, UK, and United Arab Emirates, that he's very wanted, he's deadly, and when the present leadership of the State Security Service came into power, he prioritized arresting the leadership of these various organizations. So in May last year, Abbas was arrested and taken into custody. His replacement was also arrested in July of same year. And ever since, they have been looking for a way to get them released, and they went to that it's better for them to go to the Southwest, which is the base of the president. You know, their own is to discredit government. They now went to the Southwest, did this mass kidnapping, even though they were intelligence, but that they were going to strike. But then, what happened was that they went to very remote area where they had this kidnap carried out, and ever since, the intelligence agency, their main purpose was that those two leaders, Abbas and Mahmouda, must be released on condition. So the security agencies now applied both kinetic and non-kinetic approaches and had this successful operation. There's no need going into details of how it was done, but suffice to say that no negotiations were paid. It's not like what we used to have before, when you see people dressed in uniforms celebrating their release, and you can see the joy in the face of the people who were released. And I think because there are many ongoing operations, I think it's sufficient for what we have seen. But the most important thing is that the people have been free, even though there were some casualties on both sides, both on the security services and the side of the man that was beheaded. That shows how inhumane these people are. And I think government will be in a position to address and take care of these other people.
Right. Mr. Jofo, really, so how difficult, was this operation? We can talk about it more openly now because, largely, aside from the casualties, which is heartbreaking, really, from the side of the security forces, and of course that teacher you spoke about. How difficult was this operation, knowing that there were precious jewels involved? Children as young as 2 years old were there. What kind of planning would have gone into this operation to ensure that absolutely nothing goes wrong and that everybody that was supposed to be rescued, come out alive and well?
Yeah, a lot. Actually, a lot went into this operation. Like I said, there are many ongoing operations that we don't need to discuss details. But suffice to say that both kinetic and non-kinetic approaches were used. Even psychological pressure on part of the kidnappers, because they are human beings, they have feelings too. So some psychological pressures were also put on them that they should not harm these victims. And by the time they were circled, in fact, it's worthy to note that we should mention that all the armed forces, including civil defense, SSS, backed this operation and surrounded the areas, cut off their sources of food, supplies, and a lot of pressure was put on them not to put these people in harm's way. And I think that's why we succeeded in getting this. So kudos. And I believe that more successes are upcoming.
Right. And as you've rightly said, this Ansaru faction is known for soft targets, as you put it, and, which is why they have misunderstanding with the other larger Boko Haram group. But, Ahore Siele is just one of those communities in, a remote area of, Nigeria. There was also, that attack in Kayama local government area of Kwara State sometime last year. And there are so many other soft targets across the country. This is just one of them. How do we protect these communities such that, these kind of groups would not launch another attack, or just ensure that they're better protected?
Yeah, I think apart from security intelligence services providing intelligence to prevent it from happening, because that's the most important thing, that it must be prevented from happening. You provide intelligence, the action agencies must also rise to the occasion by making sure it doesn't happen. The communities also have rules to play. So we don't just rely on the security agencies alone. The government has a role to play, both at the federal and sub-national level. I think by this, we should be able to tackle this thing from happening. Don't also forget that these Ansaru are people who have knowledge, technology, computer science. They are very deadly people, and so that's why the security agencies too have to be very careful in monitoring and surveilling them, because they are also sophisticated.
Just perhaps by way of continuing in that particular conversation and taking from that same question, since this conversation started, Mr. Jofo, it's been on my mind to ask. The governor of Oyo State, just, I don't know, maybe about the same time or just a little while before the rescue was announced, he was in Bauchi speaking to the media and talking about the fact that the governors have no authority over federal agencies, which invariably is also responsible for how long, could also have been responsible for why this has taken so long, and that the governor cannot, of the chief security, so-called chief security of the state, cannot command or give any operational instruction to the police, to the DSS, or to the military, and all of that. And consequently, maybe this is part of the reason that this has taken this long. What are your thoughts on that? I know there is the talk of state police on the table. But what are your thoughts on that? Because there are those who believe that this whole idea of state police may not even kick in until well after the election, because no state governor is likely, according to an analyst, no state is likely to have any state police in place before the general elections next year. So what are your thoughts on that? Because as Joke has asked, if we are going to ensure that this doesn't happen again, we need to have soft infrastructure already.
Well, I think we must make a distinction here in crime or criminality. You have what we call state crimes, crimes against the state, which the SSS is charged with, like espionage, sabotage. This goes outside the purview of the state government. So even if the state government had, the federal government is battling with this, so how can the state government have the capacity to deal with such state crimes, like insurgency, this mass kidnapping? They might not have, even if they have the money, they might not have the capacity, but I also think that with the creation of the state police, there must be a boundary, there must be a line between the state crimes and ordinary crimes, which the state police can handle. And so I think what we are doing, I agree that the state governors will also tell you that they don't have powers or control. And it's not entirely correct that they don't have control over the state, the federal government security agencies. Because at the state level, we have what we call a state security council, where such security issues are discussed. And the governors, you know it very well, offer advice, even equip the security agencies. So it's not completely true that they don't have control. But if they have control, like the state police, their function should be to help in gathering intelligence and prevent minor crimes against the state crime, which we are talking about. So I think if you see, I look at Enugu example, I think most states, if we adopt and get state police created, Enugu should be a model, because you can see, I traveled to Enugu, I was marveled at what they have there in terms of looking at technology deployment in Enugu. Almost every kilometer you see vehicles deployed with cameras. Police is not stopping you. And crime has reduced in that state. He just completed the DNA center, which is not only serving the state, serving the country, but the entire African continent. So we should prioritize our security, because without security, there's nothing.
It sounds to me like there is, we still have quite some work to do in terms of delineating between the functions of the state police and the functions of the federal security operatives. So you're saying that the kidnapping, the mass kidnapping that took place in Oyo State, would have been beyond the authorities of a state police infrastructure, and that it's more of a federal, a crime? What exactly, help us understand that, because you're saying that even if the state police were in place, the state police may not have been able to prevent or even conduct the rescue of these kids.
You see, there must be a collaboration between the federal agencies and the state agencies. The state agencies will provide the necessary intelligence because they know the terrain, and pass on to the federal agencies to help in collaboration. We know one agency, like what happened in Oyo State, this freeing of the kidnapped victims. It was not one agency that achieved it. All the agencies were involved. So the state police is not going to work in silo without collaborating with the federal agency. But as time goes on, possibly during the establishment of the police, all this is to be streamlined and demarcated.
You said something very important, Mr. Jofo. You talked about the fact that the criminal elements are out for one thing and one thing only, to discredit government. And it will seem like politicians tend to latch on to that and conduct their own business as well, just to get some sympathies from the people, perhaps. But the reality is, these things are happening to people. And so, isn't there a way to ensure that these things do not happen? I have said it countless times that I have seen that one of in fact, the number one function of the police is crime prevention, not crime fighting. It would seem like we wait only to fight crimes, to react, and not to be proactive. How do we ensure that we get to the space where these things don't happen, we anticipate them, and we nip them in the bud?
There are so many things involved in the question you raised. We talk of funding. Our security agencies adequately funded? That's one aspect of it. What is the commitment, loyalty, welfare of the people? You don't expect people to go and just sacrifice their life for. So I believe that. I wish, okay. So it's very important that government should prioritize security, because the primary purpose of government is welfare and security of the people. I think the government is also prioritizing it. Now that election is upcoming, like you said, our politicians also contribute to all this to discredit government. But I don't have any particular evidence to say. But the main purpose of these terrorist groups is to instill fear and in the people, make people lose confidence in government, and discredit government, bring government to disrepute.
Right, and we have to go, but very quickly, just this final question for you. This kind of coordination that we saw, take place in Oyo State, it's not the first time we hear of kidnap incidents, because they also happen in the northern part of the country. How often do you have this number of security agencies, going in to rescue victims of kidnapping in other parts of the country? I know that you said there are many operations going on that we cannot talk about, but how tight are these operations, juxtaposed with what happened in Oyo State and what's going on in other parts of the country?
I can tell you that that's what's going on all over the country. There's jointness in their operations, and it must be sustained and encouraged. Even in a family, a nuclear family, you still have a disagreement. So even the disagreement at the leadership and management level, they are quickly resolved to ensure that we move on.
Right. I must thank you for your time. Thank you for giving us, expatiating on this matter. Mike Ejiofor, former Director, Department of State Services, he joined us from our Abuja studio. A pleasure again having you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Right, and when we come back, we'll have more to, bring to your table. A lot has happened over the week.
Mm-hmm. Particularly in the last 2 weeks.
Scandals.
Yes.
Scandalous situations, I must put. Blamed and counter-blaming.
In fact, including one that's already in the courts. We'll talk about that when we return. What we are searching for is a fake agency.
Well, it's fake. There's no need to search for it. That means it's non-existent, isn't it?
Well, as you can see in the image that we put up before we came on air, somehow it exists. Mm-hmm. So this fake agency scandal stands as one of the most astonishing security and institutional, should I call it failure or loop or gap or whatever it is, in our modern political history. It centers on a completely fabricated federal entity. But is it completely fabricated? Because the fabrication is in the budget. But you know what? Our specialists are going to be speaking to that. Of course, that agency, for those of you who don't know it, is the so-called Federal Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, which managed to infiltrate the highest tiers of government, secure a 1.3 billion naira budget allocation, and host foreign diplomats right out of the federal secretariat. Far from a simple case of identity theft, this crisis has triggered a 10 billion naira defamation lawsuit, a high-level presidential probe, and serious questions about how deep the corruption runs within our civil service. This morning, we have two gentlemen to discuss this with us. We have a techpreneur and public affairs commentator, Enitan Bello, with us in the studio. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much, sir.
We also have Tunde Aremu, who is a policy, research, and influencing manager with a Plan International Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time this morning, sir.
Right.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yeah.
I don't know what your first question would be, but imagine it could be, how is this even possible?
Well, interestingly, we hosted Simon Lalong, who said that it is very, very possible. Wow. Because there was a language, and this is where my first question would be. In the conversations, either written or verbal, that the so-called DG of the so-called agency put out, said it was a particular fellow that helped him to procure the appointment letter. The word procure, I flagged on my mind.
Purchase.
That was a, come on. So what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so that framing is actually the thing to flag.
Okay.
Because he used procure. Interestingly.
Okay.
So he did an interview with Very Dark Man recently, where he said, Very Dark Man asked him, have you met the chief of staff face to face? He said no. So how did you not get this thing? He said it's his friend that helped him. So Very Dark Man now pushed, have you spoken to the chief of staff? He said yes. Was it video call? He said no. But it was via phone call through his friend.
His destiny helper.
So now, if you look at, I went to search because this thing was baffling to me.
Yeah.
I searched and I found similarities between this Adeyemi guy and his friend. So this is what they do. They have pictures with almost everybody of note.
Right.
Presidents, former presidents, CEOs, and this guy has pictures with Obasanjo, has president, anybody.
And these are not fake pictures, they're real.
They stood with them.
What's the objective of those pictures?
Is particularly to do this kind of thing, to buy credibility. Any room they walk into, everybody, someone, I know this person.
Yeah.
This thing is actually quite common in Abuja. There are a lot of people who, by associating with politicians, they have access. You know how security, let me not use security agencies work, security. Yeah. Once they see you with a big person constantly, you automatically have access to that office. So that's their first leverage point. Once they get in, they can be able to do this. I wrote a post yesterday or so. I said, I believe there may be dozens more.
All right, that we just don't even know about.
That we don't know. The beauty of this particular scandal is it gives the government an opportunity to plug the holes. Because what it shows is that we don't have a live register of the MDAs. We have 891 ministries, departments, and agencies.
No, we have more than that, I assure you.
So are we saying that this particular agency is not doing budget defense and
because from the comment by a former DG of the budget office, I mean, if you look at the budget, you will see the budget lines. He said we had as at the time he was in office, almost 1,500, about 1,490 something ministries, departments, agencies, and corporations,
yes.
of government. But let's go to Mr. Aremu. We'll still come back to that particular one. But Mr. Aremu, first of all, when you heard this, you must have been scandalized by the mere fact that it was even possible. What was your initial thought, and what are your expectations now?
Well, let me put it this way, maybe slightly different from the way Mr. Bello has put it there. Yes, it's scandalous that it happened. And what makes it scandalous is magnitude and the audacity that goes with it. But then when you also look back, you also ask yourself, is this new? No, it's not new. We have history of phantom recruitment agencies, ministries, different states across the federation. You have all sorts of revenue generation agencies that are not known to the law, that the states do not have record of, that just emerge on the road and harass people. And if you also recall, 2011, 2017, those are recent ones, which you also find police busting some fake recruitment agencies in Lagos State. So it's like that across the country. So it's not new. It's the audacity of this one that actually strikes all of us as strange and then peculiar. And then if you also ask us, why is it happening? I'm taking it back to what Mr. Bello said earlier on, and what the former Auditor General of the country also said. It's also that, is it happening? It has been happening. Why is it happening is a question, because this actually is systemic failure. It's not because what we're also getting wrong is that we are focusing on that individual. It goes beyond that individual. You also have to look at the system itself. Because one of the things I try to do is to actually look for a registry or a database of government agencies, government institutions, parastatals, and there's actually no unified one anywhere. I couldn't trace it online. And for a number of years now, I've been working on budget analysis. And as the person you interviewed earlier said, it's true that we have so many agencies that we don't know what they are meant to work on. They duplicate efforts of other agencies. And then you find out that there are also disconnects between different agencies of government. So even tracking agencies also become very hard. And this is what this person, this individual and his friend took advantage of.
Well, you know, what's also interesting, Mr. Aremu, just a second, what's also interesting is that this so-called PFIPC was supposedly attached to a Presidential Economic Advisory Council. That council operated actively, was set up under President Muhammadu Buhari, who is now late. When President Tinubu came in, he dissolved that council and set up another one, totally different in nomenclature from this one. So what, in your opinion, could have happened such that those in the top echelon could still attribute something to a phantom council, phantom presidential council, which ceased to exist about 2 or 3 years ago? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it also shows the flaw in our system. You call it gap earlier on. I will say flaw. I mean, why is it a flaw? It's also that we don't have records of institutions, we don't have records of agencies, and then the monitoring mechanism is also very weak. That's what it also means. If that agency under President Muhammadu Buhari had been dissolved by President Tinubu, how come another agency emerged, attaching itself to that one? And nobody flagged it. And if you also notice what happened, if you check the record, as far back as September 2025, Nigeria Investment Promotion Council had actually raised concern about this phantom agency. Well, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, probably after it had raised a note verbal for this agency, also realized probably there were some flaws, there were some mistakes, and also quickly alerted the office of the Secretary to the Federal Government of Nigeria. But then it also took them almost a month to actually reach out and strangely ask. I say strangely because you are going to start seeing where the flaw is. The office of the Secretary General of the Secretary to the Federal Government of Nigeria had to reach out to the office of the Chief of Staff to the President to find out, to request for information about this agency.
I would have
There's
thought,
a flaw there because it should be the other way around.
I would have thought that a simple Google search would have helped to know that the Presidential Economic Advisory Council doesn't exist anymore.
Yes, you are correct. But then government doesn't work that way. My experience interacting with government agencies, actually at times they laugh at us, those of us from the development sector, and say that we don't understand how government works. That you can't use Google search to look for certain things. So you have to make inquiry. But as I said, one critical thing is that, is there a unified registry where anybody in government or outside government can go and check? Yes, Google search, as you said, because immediately it's put online, maybe the search engines can bring them up. But unfortunately, the system is flawed, and we still put it that way, to the extent that we don't have a unified registry, we don't have a database of agencies, and you also find, embarrassingly, that you find the Nigeria Senate actually not also verifying, and both the Senate and the House of Federal House of Representatives not verifying, not checking with any relevant institution to check whether this agency actually exists. That means, for all we know, there could be 1,001 other agencies that are also online, or that are also accessing resources, that are also being assigned spaces, because that's actually where the challenge is, that we don't know what exists, nobody is tracking anything, there's no monitoring mechanism, that the president gave an order that an institution should be dissolved, and that it still exists. It's the greatest scandal, really.
You know, it's interesting that on the back of that, let me bring it to you, Mr. Bello, because I know that you want to have one or two responses to what Sharon said. But on the back of that, I had to go check whether there are other agencies like that existed but have become dormant or moribund, and we don't seem to be giving them so much attention anymore. I found a few. Nerfund is relatively known, but Nerfund has gone dormant for a while. I don't know whether it is still active, but the law that sets it up, I'm not sure that law has been repealed. So someone could wake up tomorrow now and say, I'm an agency performing under Nerfund. And then there's also the Nigerian Coal Corporation or something like that since like the 50s. It's only recently that the House of Representatives is trying to set up a National or Nigerian Coal Development Commission. But that has not been repealed. So anyone could wake up tomorrow now and say, hey, I am representing this agency of government. Do you see that also playing out in this regard?
Yes, sir, very, 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 very much. So if we go back to the Steve Oronsai report, 50 agencies that were existing that were not backed by any law were flagged. So, and you know, since then there has been white papers, nothing has been done. So it's very possible many of those agencies still exist. Now, to the point Mr. Arimu made that I want to touch on, we have to thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, actually, because without them, this guy would have gotten away with it. What I mean by gotten away with it is he planned a summit. He planned to invite, investors, ambassadors. If he had done that, it would have been impossible to call him a fraud. So he sent a message to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs saying, my staff need visas. So those ones were like, who are you? So that's what started the ripple effect that led to exposing him. So they asked questions that, who is this guy? Who is this guy? Who is this guy? And it got to the chief of staff's table. I don't know him. The president didn't set up this. So he asked the security agencies to investigate this guy. They invited him. Where did you get your appointment letter from? Somebody helped me procure it. And by his own admission, he was arrested and detained for 28 days, thereabouts, within that period. And investigations started going on. The whole point is that we need a registry. When I said we have 891 ministries, departments, and agencies, that's me going through the 2026 budget, line by line. Of course, there are some agencies that didn't make it to the budget, but they exist. The ones that I could confirm. And it's too much not to have a registry where anybody can go and verify. It's dangerous because there are a lot of them existing everywhere. And I'm sorry to say, civil servants are the engine behind this particular fraud, because he couldn't have done what he did without help me to do this. Who put it in the budget? Somebody did. Somebody created a fresh budget code, because I checked. It wasn't in the 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023 budget. Suddenly, bam, it appeared in this new one. So a lot of people helped him, and it just points back to the fact that there are a lot of people involved. People are benefiting from stuff like this, and the government really needs to block these holes once and for all, because another one will surface if nothing is done. Everybody will be on their toes now. Let them not catch me. Let them not catch me. Yes. That's just the truth.
Interesting.
It's very, very, very interesting, because you will still wonder, how come there was no finality to this particular agency when it was supposedly shut down when it was, and that it still had offices, it was still allowed to exist, and it was only when he was looking for money to carry out a particular event or service that people now started asking questions. If they shouldn't have existed, how come he goes to office every day to say, I'm in charge of this office? That's what we're wondering. I don't know if I'm mistaken.
Well, it's really, well, let me ask Mr. Arimu, because it's still rather baffling. There's no doubt about it. It's still really, really baffling that this happened. And you say that it's not new. Mr. Bello here has mentioned the Oriire report and the fact that government ought to have, this probably wouldn't exist if government had taken the Oriire report as seriously as many Nigerians suspect. Do you think that is significant? How significant do you think it can help us to quell what the issues are? And added to that, is there any other thing that you think we need to do now to ensure that we don't find ourselves here again? Because both of you are saying that if we don't do something decisive, this will this is probably still ongoing right now.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, there are quite a number of things we could do. The Oriire report is just one of them. We also know the challenge we have is also the issue of continuity in government. When Dr. Okonjo-Iweala, when she was coordinating of economy and race issues around institutions, agencies, some of us disagree with her, not to the extent of the need for reform or the approach. But we are happy that she actually took cancer then. There was an audit. Where's the report of that audit? What has happened to it? Who has taken action on it after she left office? Which is also the challenge with continuity in governance in the country. Then the other issue is also that there are existing rules where I agree with Mr. Bello now that some individuals within the system, not just civil servants, even politically exposed individuals, privileged people also enable persons like this gentleman and such phantom agencies. That agency actually was not existing. I think we should also not get it wrong. It was not existing properly under President Buhari. It was, it piggybacked on another agency that was existing, that was scrapped by President Tinubu. And the strange thing is this. There is the Civil Service Rule, Chapter 2 and 14, which actually stipulate how civil servants are deployed to agencies. Who check the records, who check the books? When civil servants, 314 people were being posted to that phantom agency. That's one rule that was broken. You know, I made mention of the Senate earlier on. Between the Senate, the Auditor General, the Office of the Secretary to the Federal Government of the Federation, there is a Fiscal Responsibility Act in Part 2 and 8 that also stipulated the processes that things should take and the checks that should be made. Who are the people who are supposed to check that? Which offices were supposed to make those checks? It was not made. That was one of the problems. And then we also have the Public Procurement Act. When you hear Public Procurement Act, the tendency is to think about contracts and all sorts of things. In Chapter 16, it actually speaks about even allotment of space in highly security environment in such places as the Federal Secretariat. How did the man get that space? Who did the check? Who allotted the space? That's another rule that was broken. Then, the intelligence sharing framework was also sidelined or was not efficiently followed or triggered. Because we also found out that it took a long time for the different offices to also act on information. These are also some of the things that we also need to check. Yes, so until we start looking at those rules, ensure the effectiveness, efficiency, the observation, and the application of the rules. We are going to keep having this. It's going to record. This will not be the first one. And as Mr. Bello said, I agree with him. For all you and I know, there could be about 50 more of such phantom agencies existing that we don't know of yet.
Right, and
it won't stop because people are afraid, or people just on their own will feel that, okay, let's stop it. There has to be some sanctions. There has to be consequences for this. These rules that have been broken, some people have to answer for it. Right. Unless it happens,
yes,
there won't be any deterrent factor.
Mr. Aremu, I'm quite baffled. Let me bring my state of being baffled to you, Mr. Bello. Because she spoke about rules being broken. What rules? Because what kind of system are we running? In Anambra there, I think one of the first things that the governor did when he came was to ensure that the the civil service is digitalized. Yes. If you have an office that's, maybe you have an ID card, you need to clock in, nothing will happen. You can't get into all those spaces. The man that says is in charge of the agency, what kind of security access does he have to go into the federal secretariat to say that, I'm working in this office? Because if that office was not existing in the first place, there's nothing like that. So I don't understand what rule is. Are we still like in the 1980s that we're breaking rules of just, you can just walk in and nobody knows anybody. You just walk in and who's paying whose salary? How come he's enrolled in a system where his salary is being paid, or maybe he doesn't need salary because of the budget that has been allocated, so he will feel fat from that. But can you tell me what kind of system are we running such that those kind of things, and not just this agency, multiple agencies can have such access and nobody knows?
Okay, so the system is archaic. I spoke to someone that works in Abuja. So I asked the same question. So the person told me that there was a time that ID cards were enforced. But once it's 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, people go out. And then when they are coming back, nobody checks again. So new people can come in. And then there are people who sell stuff who have places in the secretariat that they keep their stuff. So the security system is questionable. Now, I want to address the salary thing and the staffing thing. So one thing I want to clear, they didn't post 314 staff to that office. Right? So what he got was a waiver to recruit.
Oh, on his own. Who signed the waiver? Because those are the questions.
So there are at least 10 agencies that need to answer questions.
Yes, sir.
That's why when some people say, why is this investigation taking this long? It has to take this long because it's a multi-agency failure. So the only 3 staff that are verified to have worked in that office were posted there from the office of the Accountant General. They received their salaries from that office, not from the PFIPC office. So they were posted there. One of them said, I went there once a week. I didn't do anything. Another said he went there twice a week. Normal civil servant behavior. Just go to the office or don't go and just get paid. The office of the Accountant General, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Head of Civil Service, NITDA. So NITDA was the one that, as a tech person, is quite peculiar to me. A fake agency got a .gov.ng domain name. That's what legitimized this whole thing. Anybody goes to that website, this is a real agency. And their verification process is manual. So somebody there refused to ask the right questions. And it all came from a fake appointment letter that he presented to someone. That thing opened doors. Or maybe some people that he knew there just bypassed the whole process. Because by the time he got into the budget, the fake agency wasn't that fake anymore. That's why I said if he had succeeded in, hosting that summit and then brought investors, ambassadors from all over the world, he had presidents on schedule to come.
So who would have? I'm wondering who will have attended the summit. I'm sorry, Mr. Revo, welcome to me, but I'm just amazed. Who would have? Maybe I should bring that question to you, Mr. Revo, because who do you suppose will have attended that summit if he on his own presented a fake appointment letter? he used that to open, because there are a lot of people that are culpable within the civil service. People that ensure that his agency's agenda entered the budget so that he could get that amount of money. The people the waiver he got to recruit people on his own, all those little things that were, that is not at the level of like the permanent secretary or the minister. It's not those all those other directors and all those people that seemingly are not visible, but they do a lot. So who would have attended that summit? He won't just invite foreign people. He will have invited his bosses, the president, the head of civil service, all those people. The minister of foreign affairs will have come there. Do they know him? Did they give him the appointment letter? Did they sign up? Who signed up for what? Because it's laughable what we're talking about. So, let me bring it to you. Who do you suppose will have attended that summit if he was actually successful in organizing it?
If the lead had not been broken,
if
somebody had not flagged this at the Nigeria Investment Promotion Council and at the Foreign Affairs Ministry, don't be surprised that somebody at the presidency will have been there. If the president himself or the vice president himself don't attend, that's a strange thing about the way our system works. I said earlier on that who does the checks, who makes the checks, who has questions. If we don't ask the right questions in the right places, we are going to keep having these challenges. And we have a system that is also heavily built on patronage, culture of patronage. So all you have to do is know Dr. A, Professor B, Chief C, and Z.
Okay, Mr. Aremuja, we're running out of time, but I'd like you to help us do something as we wrap up. The president has ordered a 30-day investigation of this whole thing. ICPC has that responsibility. And of course, the chief of staff will also be investigated and all of that. What are the things that you hope this investigation by the ICPC will cover? Do you think the ICPC will do a thorough job, or, as you said, is there a risk of patronage?
Well, ICPC needs to be conscious of one reality now. People out there are cynical about not just the ICPC, but about the whole system. You see everywhere, online, in conversations, offline and online, people are actually expressing doubt that this will happen. Don't also forget that in the past administration, especially the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, we had PACAC, Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption. There were a lot of things that was done by that advisory committee then, and some of them became very controversial. But there are issues that are still lingering, that have not been resolved. Some issues they flagged them. And some of them are with ICPC, because fortunately the executive secretary of PACAC then ended up being chair of ICPC and took some of these issues with him there. Where are they now? So, and this is the best time now, this is the greatest opportunity for ICPC to actually prove its own integrity. So it's not just the system that is on trial now, either we like it or not. The system is on trial, and then the ICPC itself is on the site of the gun.
Okay.
Because people are watching, people are waiting, and it won't die like other issues, I assure you.
Okay.
People are going to keep.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Bello, your thoughts on that as well. What are the things that the ICPC must have in mind, knowing that the social media is very, very active, and the names, the names that have been mentioned, they want to know whether they're going to get a slap on the wrist or they're just going to be exonerated altogether?
Yeah, I quite agree with Mr. Heads need to roll. Heads just need to roll. Everybody. I'm particularly invested in this case because any update that comes, I write about it. Nobody can hide. Heads need to roll. Everybody involved needs to, because it's a national disgrace. It's in the BBC, for crying out loud. We have enough bad news about Nigeria. Why this one?
Okay. Heads must roll, he says. Well, thankfully, the head of the website has rolled. pfipc.gov.ng is inactive. So let's say that one is gone. Well, thank you very much for your time this morning. Enitan Bello is a techpreneur as well as a public affairs commentator. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you, sir.
We have also had Mr. Tunde Aremu, who is a policy, research and influencing manager at Plan International Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time and your perspectives today.
Thank you very much.
When we return, we're asking the question, why are you tired?
Why are you always tired?
No, good. That's why. Why are you always tired? We'll find out when we return. In case you are not tired, find out why you are tired.
Emphasis on men. The towel is a throwaway.
After all, that's the one that carries the stress mark.
Menstrual.
Menstrual.
Oh, no. We did that last week.
Menopause.
It's doing everything.
You know that when a woman is having menopause, there is mental in it. But don't worry. So let's start from here. So, okay. It's Saturday morning.
Yes.
You finally have a chance to slow down. You make yourself a cup of tea, or coffee, or cocoa, whichever. Settle into your favorite chair and tell yourself, today, I'm going to rest.
Which fictitious
Calm down. But before you take the first sip, your phone buzzes.
And Ayo Makinde calls
a work message. No, don't let me mention the names of the people that can call your name. A family WhatsApp group, school reminders, news alerts,
yes,
bills to pay. Someone needs a favor. Suddenly, your day of rest
becomes too far. It falls away. There we go again.
So, even though you've hardly left your seat, you already feel exhausted, by all of that active phone. Well, some of that time we'll talk about tech detox, but not today. So even though, you are exhausted, not physically, but mentally. So why are you, as many other people, feel mentally drained? Is this just part of mental life, or are we overlooking something important?
Some people call it adulting. Becoming an adult, because if you're a teenager, younger one, you don't have all those things to think about.
Says who?
I mean, not of yourself. You think about it, but you're not the one providing it.
My daughter was 15 when she told me, Daddy, if you know what I'm going through. Anyway, Miracle Ihuoma joins us this morning. He's a clinical psychologist. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let's even first of all to have an understanding of what please, not men, as some people are saying, mental exhaustion. What is it? What does it mean, and how does it differ from being stressed?
Mental exhaustion is just when you have prolonged unmanaged stress. So you're stressed and you've not been able to manage that stress, it becomes mentally exhausting. That is what mental exhaustion is. Of course, stress is our body's way of reminding us or telling us that something is off and that we need to make an adjustment in either our physiology or even our psychology. But when that is unattended to at that time, it becomes mental exhaustion. And when mental exhaustion is not attended to, it becomes burnout.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's 100 level, 200 level.
Exactly.
Okay, so the first one is stress. Then mental exhaustion. And then burnout.
Yes.
What is responsible? We must work. See, my co-pair's job here, she has a job description, but she has to do more. Someone who is going to get a job now, after getting everything, say, any other task as may be assigned. It's always in the employment letter.
Yeah, exactly.
So what is responsible for this, I don't know, accumulation or coagulation or whatever it is in your opinion?
Yeah, it is not work. It is sometimes overworking. Sometimes people overwork. Right? They work when they're not supposed to work. Work when they're supposed to work. When, so they're always working. That's overwork. So overwork will cause mental exhaustion. Lack of sleep could also cause it. When you're not getting adequate sleep, you could also get exhausted, because sleep is our body's way of rejuvenating us and getting us ready to go again. When that doesn't happen, then all the replacements in your physiology that needs to happen doesn't happen. Sometimes even perfectionism can be a cause, when somebody always wants things to be perfect. And because of that, because perfectionism can be mentally exhausting, where you are trying to, you want everything to be perfect. And it's not just the act of trying to make it perfect that gets you exhausted. It is thinking about it. Thinking about, okay, am I sure this is okay? Am I sure this is perfect? What else can we do about it? That can get you mentally exhausted.
Then Michael Jackson must have been mentally exhausted.
Possibly.
Because the guy, we understand that the whole studio, all the professionals in the studio say, this job is done, this is perfect. And they will still spend about 3 weeks trying to perfect the perfect.
Wow.
So this is one of the everyday habits that in your what you're saying is quietly contributing to it.
Yes.
Perfectionism?
Perfectionism, yes.
Okay, what other things?
Could be mentally exhausting as well. Normal financial pressure. Yeah, could be mentally exhausting, because you get to think about it, worry about it, and then even though you haven't done anything, just like in your introduction, you mentioned, you're trying to get some rest, and then you get a ring from work, and then, there's a bus from your children's school. Now, you have not done anything physically, but you're already exhausted mentally, because now you are worried, your thoughts get complex, and our brain is elastic, yes, but also has limited resources. Yeah, because it has multiple functions at the same time. The brain is trying to process information. It is trying to think. It is also responsible for emotions. The brain is also responsible for helping you to resist temptations. You remember things. So there's just a lot going on in your brain. But when it gets to a point where it feels like the brain is jam-packed and bombarded, sometimes your brain begins to tell you, okay, there are limited resources to handle all of these things. So that's when people now begin to tell you things like, okay, I can't remember. It now affects their memory. They can't remember so much anymore. Sometimes, they even begin to feel numb. Because the brain that's responsible for that slows down because of the bombardment that it has received from all of the information that has come to you at the same time, and its inability to process it, as quickly as it would normally do. So that is really what causes the mental exhaustion.
Right, and another situation, why do some people find it difficult to actually rest, even when they have that opportunity? Imagine that Saturday morning does come and none of those things come through. You don't get a call from anybody, nobody needs a favor, no bills need to be paid that morning, and you actually get to sleep like maybe another 2-3 hours on a Saturday morning that you would normally do. But they just can't seem to do it. For someone like me, let me just sleep. Like once it's night, once I just sleep, and I wake up in the morning, that's it.
Yeah.
Right. If once I sleep, that rest comes automatically, no matter how many hours, maybe 5-6 hours, depending. But, you know, some people get that opportunity to just get a short-eye sleep, but they never do it.
Yeah.
Why do their brains overprocess things in that way? I think because I can't put it in any other way, really.
Yeah. So there could be a plethora of reasons why that happens. For someone, they might be dealing with insomnia,
right.
You know, as a disorder. For some other people, it is, you know, sometimes even burnout. You need to sleep, but you won't just be able to. That's one of the symptoms of burnout. You want to sleep, you know you need to sleep, but because you have stressed and stretched your brain so much, you can't even get the sleep that you want. That could also be another reason why people try to sleep and they are not able to get that sleep that they need. Yeah. So burnout could be a reason. Anxiety could also be another reason. People are just maybe anxious. Realize that if you have something to do very early the next day, sometimes you don't sleep well at night, because even though you're sleeping, your brain is processing that activity that you have to do very early the next day. So anxiety could sometimes make people not even sleep, relax, and just sleep properly. You know, so that could be also another reason why it is difficult for people, you know, to sleep even when they have the opportunity to.
What about grief that has not been properly dealt with?
Yes, that's also another reason why people might not be able to sleep, because they can sleep, it might be morning, and definitely it would affect how much sleep they get. Even depression can affect sleep. Yeah, because people who are depressed sleep too much or sleep too little. So all of these things could actually affect one's sleep.
Would you say, and it has anything to do with, it could have anything to do with gender? Do you think it's something that affects men more than it affects women?
Mental exhaustion?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I need to check it out.
Yeah, I asked that because you said, you know, a lot about, things that the fellow has to do, this one, that one.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking that question.
I don't think so, because it could affect men in certain areas, when work related. It could affect women more in family related issues, because a lot of women are mentally exhausted, not because they even have a 9-to-5 or as busy as some men are, but because the family responsibilities they have to meet up to are exhausting. So a woman, for example, sometimes has to wake up by 4 a.m. to prepare the children for school. She has to make food as well for the husband or for the family before they wake up. She has to maybe drop the children off at school and then pick them back up. For some women who even have 9-to-5, they go to work and then come back, do all of that, and then still have to, do domestic chores. And then at night also she has to, so all of these things could be mentally exhausting for the woman. So in that sense, women would say they are mentally exhausted. But for a man as well, sometimes there's financial pressure. In certain cases that might not be the same for women. There is work pressure, job pressure, because society judges women differently from how they judge men. For example, men are judged by financial success. Women are judged by relational success. That's why a man who is 30 years old and living with his parents will be badly judged. And say, how come you are still living with your parents at 30? But a woman who is 30 years old living with her parents is normal. In fact, if she's living alone, it's a red flag. But a man who is 30, who is not married, there's no problem with that. He's just 30. A woman who is 30, they're already telling her your biological clock is ticking. So they are judged differently, and these different areas could actually be what causes mental exhaustion for them.
I think it's about time we began to change these words from mental to womental exhaustion.
Even when this even biological clock you've mentioned too, it's I think it could also give a lot of mental pressure. For instance, a single woman, you are not married by 30. When are you going to get married?
Exactly.
Then you marry. When are you going to have children? Then when you understand? So it could be sometimes all those things too. Societal pressures could also add to those things. When should we begin to pull back? If we can address our parents now, when should we pull back and not really pile a lot of pressure on our children? Even the young people, you're going to school, you must study, you must pass, you must succeed. But we don't want sending child to come home with the 0/40. So you still have to put them under pressure. You need to study to pass. Exactly. So it really never goes away. But can we even address the young ones, the
pressure that comes from parents.
The pressure that comes from parents. And I'm not talking about teenagers, though. I'm still talking about like age 7 to 10, then 10 to 15 maybe, or during, you know, primary through the end of secondary school. There's a lot of pressure on those children as well.
Yes, there is. I usually like to say pressure makes diamonds.
Right.
So pressure is needed.
Yeah.
But the pressure has to be measured.
Yeah.
The pressure has to be realistic.
Yeah.
So that you don't push the child to the extreme. Because when pressure is not measured, pressure is really what makes a lot of people perfectionists, which is why you find a lot more firstborn children who are perfectionists than any other birth order. Because firstborn children usually face pressure more than any other, you know, birth order in a family setting. So it's important that we are careful about how much pressure we put on children, how much expectations we have of them, and allow them. Sometimes you just have to allow children to be children. For example, a child is a child. It is not an adult. So you can't say behave like a man. He's not a man. He's a boy. You know, you can't say behave like a woman. She's a girl. Yeah. So you need to, and you mentioned Michael Jackson earlier. Those are part of the issues. You know, Michael Jackson, if you read the story, there's a lot of pressure put on him by the father particularly that turned him into a perfectionist. You know, and that's, you see how that played out even in his career. So yes, well, we should put certain level of pressure so that our children can excel and do well. We should also make sure that that pressure is measured and that pressure is reasonable and not you know, unrealistic.
So let's begin to coast home now. For someone watching you right now who is clearly, unequivocally, mentally exhausted, and natural demotivation will come from mental exhaustion.
Yes.
How do we begin to work it back?
Yeah, for mental exhaustion is, like I said, is milder than burnout, for example. So it means that just a little tweak here and there would really get the person back on track. Taking a step back is a good place to start. So say, okay, let me just take a step back, right? And then maybe have an overview of the whole situation. Look at it from another perspective, from another point of view, right? Because in the midst of it, sometimes that's when it gets exhausted. So take a step backwards and then look at it, you know, as an overview, and then look at what is the most important thing for me to do right now. Yeah, begin to prioritize. To say, okay, I know that there are a lot of things calling for my attention, and justifiably so, but is there something that I can start with right now? You know, one step at a time. So I could say, okay, this is the most important thing right now. In time management, for example, we've been taught about the urgent and important principle, to say that you pursue what is urgent and important, because for everyone we have what is urgent and important, we have what is urgent but not important, we have what is important and not urgent, we have what is not important and not urgent, right? So you want to prioritize, to say what you pursue are the things that are urgent and important. You know, something might be important but not urgent. This is something that you can push to do later on. You know, and something can be urgent and not important. You delegate that, you know, to somebody else to do. And something can be not urgent and not important, that you don't pay attention to at all. Okay, so that's a good place you want to start from, to say that you want to start one step at a time. And then, you know, it's important to also get all the support that you can in that moment, right? Delegate if you can. Take time out to rest, sleep. All of those things are very important for recuperation, because when you sleep, most times if you have extended amount of sleep, or somebody who is mentally exhausted, you will feel much better than you felt before that. And
you'll be able to think
more clearly.
Those issues.
Exactly.
But it's very important what you just said now about the urgent and important. Yes. I remember some years ago, some decades ago, I read a content called The Tyranny of the Urgent. It is tyrannical. I must do it now, otherwise. Particularly for spouses. You, the husband, think it is urgent and important, wife is like, well, it's important, but it's not urgent. And before we know what's happening, that could cause. So I'd like you to expatiate a little further on it.
Okay.
So you're suggesting, for instance, that the viewer right now, listening to you, should pick a pen and paper.
Yes.
And create those 4 columns.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So where you write urgent and important, urgent but not important, important but not urgent, not urgent, not important. So urgent and important is what you do first.
So you have to list them out.
You have to list all the things that are urgent and important.
Okay.
That's
the things that are buzzing in the head right now.
Yes.
That's not allowing you to.
Yeah. So put them in those 4 in that quadrant to say, okay, all of these things, children's school fees.
Like, because we are vacating in this July, so you put that table down in July.
Yes.
Urgent, important, but not urgent.
Your wife is pregnant. Put it down now. Not that 9 months time you'll not be disturbing everybody.
No, but that one is urgent and important.
No, some people, for example,
she's just in month 1.
No, because pregnancies are not like that. Anything can happen.
All of a sudden,
anything can happen.
What I'm even saying is, when it gets to 9 months.
No, you can't look at the end for pregnancies. Every month counts.
Okay.
There's something every month, so you never know.
I'm talking about delivery now.
Yeah, but anything happens. So you don't use pregnancy as example.
See,
it doesn't happen.
We need to call it women's
I'm just saying that you can't use pregnancy as an example because it doesn't count. Let's use school fees.
Let's use school fees and also.
Hey, school fees now is
you see what I'm saying about men and women?
No, it's important, but like school fees. It's important, but it's not urgent because you're still looking at September. So you start saving if you have to save, you start working towards it, you know that it's coming, and even if it's the last week before they resume, you can pay. Then we're here. So those kind of, don't use pregnancy.
Okay.
A lot of women will write you up.
See what I'm saying about the categorization by men and women? And she's protesting on behalf of women.
I'm just saying.
That's the whole idea.
So you put in there, so you, after you list and put everything, you just realize that, okay, some of the things that you were really bothered about, you shouldn't even bother about them at all, because some of them might not even be urgent, they might not even be important at all.
And meanwhile, someone is bringing it as pressure for you. You just say, don't worry, I'm thinking about it.
Some might be important, but not urgent, like you mentioned. It's important, but it's not urgent. It's not something we need to deal with right now.
I remember those days, Ayo, you go to my father, Daddy, when we were like younger, I need to do my hair. He'll just say, he has a list that he writes. So he probably had that box. Yes, he has a list that he writes everything that everybody needs to do. But I'm sure that list has urgent, important but not urgent. Like the hair you want to do, it's important but it's not urgent. So he prioritizes it up as the financial needs. Do you understand? So whatever is there, so is those urgent and important that goes first. Then any other thing comes on that.
Now you know.
So we know.
Now you know. You can actually categorize your mental exhaustion.
Yes, so into
4 categories. So that way, that's a to-do for you right there.
Yes.
Don't let that be an urgent and important matter for you right now. Just put pen and paper down and just note those things. One of the things that I always say as well is just whatever it is that's buzzing in your head, write them all down. I believe that the moment you write them down, first of all, it's demystified.
Yeah.
That demystification will probably even help you to be a lot calmer. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, sir.
Michael, beg your pardon. Miracle Ifoma is a clinical psychologist. Because we talked about Michael Jackson, I'm calling you Michael. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So when we return, Artist of the Week is someone who has traversed the stage and the screen. I still have a problem with how we are managing or balancing the two. Whether or not we're even giving attention to it. That's what's up when we return.
That's what's up.
Okay. You don't even want to know the drama that went off on this stage. You don't want to know. But guess what? Our guest, our artist of the week is a veteran Nigerian actress. Once upon a time, a journalist. Dominated the Nollywood movie industry in the 90s. Started her career as an energy correspondent for Daily Times newspaper after earning a bachelor's degree in mass communication from University in Dallas, USA. She first transitioned into the entertainment space on the popular Charlie Boy show, shot to mainstream fame in 1994 for her iconic role as senior girl, Doris, in the classic hit film Glamour Girls. She continues to take active roles on stage and on screen, and recently starred in the 2022 psychological thriller series Diche on Showmax. Ladies and gentlemen, our artist of the week is married to a fellow veteran Nollywood actor, Norbert. Yes, you got it right. Yeah. Norbert Young. Gloria Young. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm so happy to be here.
You are already looking at our stage. What you're going to, the kind of...
You know.
It's been a long time.
Yes, it has. Honestly, it has.
Where have you been hiding?
In plain sight. It's you that went into hiding.
Okay, it means in plain sight.
You see?
And I say,
On TV, and I'm still hiding.
I am still hiding, just like me.
oh, wow.
Oh, well.
How's it been?
So far, so good. It's been crazy. But you know, that's the thing about life. If it's boring, then it's, you know, it doesn't go by so fast. It's when things are happening, when lots of things are happening, when there are challenges, when there are so many things happening. That's when life just moves really fast.
You look like there can't be any dull moments around you.
Oh, sweetheart, no.
I can tell.
The word is not impossible.
I do not like...
It is impossible.
It's not possible. It's not possible.
Okay. First of all, let's talk about that transition you made from journalism to acting.
Yes.
How did that happen?
I have no idea.
Oh, wow.
You know, because... Okay, growing up, all I wanted to do was write. I used to think I was a shy person. I just realized that I just hadn't come into my own.
Wow. So
most times, the easiest way for me to articulate my feelings was by putting it down. So I was always writing, always writing. So when my dad kept on wanting to know what I wanted to be, I just said, let me just be writing. I would write stories, I would write scripts, I would write things, and all of that. And he said, okay, go and be a journalist now.
Wow.
And that was it. Of course, it had to be like mass communication, learn all the ropes.
Do it properly, yes.
And all that. Yes, so I did that. And then came back to Nigeria, and I had a distant uncle working with Daily Times, and he said, come and go and try. Let's do it as IT. And it was quite interesting for me, you know, because I didn't think about the reporter aspect of writing. You know, and that became stressful because just give me the story or tell me about it and I'll build up a story for you.
Yeah.
But ask me to go interview people and all of that. I didn't want to be Barbara Walters. So anyway, and then meeting up with Charlie Boy, he was looking for a writer and I was looking for something different. I just wanted to be able to put down thoughts, stories, and I started doing that. You understand? That's where I got into it.
Wow.
So how did they put you on energy correspondent, not even entertainment?
Energy correspondent, I was actually like, it was kind of like IT. I first started as, industrial training. And so I was supposed to be assisting Lola Olakunrin then. Yes. And So she was the energy correspondent, and it was kind of like she handed it over to me. Because yeah, I was always going from places to places with her, NMPC here, go there, get the stories and all of that. So I knew the works, I knew the ropes, I knew all of those places. And so once she was leaving, automatically it came to me. Right. And that's how I started doing it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And how was it when you had to start doing it on your own?
That's when the mental exhaustion started.
That's when I mean, you go stand there, you wait for the news to come, and you understand. And those are government parastatals you're going to. You're going to NMPC, you're going to Ministry of Mines, Works and Industry, you're going to all those places, you're waiting for the minister to come back to give us the news, press conferences, all of that. I just wanted to write,
So when you now made the transition, how was it difficult, easy? How easy was it for you to just transition into?
It was easy. It was easy because I after Daily Times, I had worked with Poise. Poise was under Daily Times, and I had started writing some feature stories. And then Mayela and Ezekiel grabbed me from there because she was working with Newswatch, Life, and I worked with her Classic magazine for like 2 years, and I was doing all the writing. So it was easy. I didn't go straight to television. I just went to writing. Right. So I was the one doing all the scripts on the Charlie Boy show as at that time. And people like Patrick Doyle and the rest were the ones who were in front of the camera. It's when they didn't show up now. And work has to be done. You know how it is.
You remember?
I said, turn it around. Let's do something.
You remind me how I got into presenting as well. The presenter didn't show up.
My
producer had the script and just said, and in those days, if you are not on time,
but this was radio.
This was radio.
Yes.
If you are not on time, your scheduled recording time will be taken by anybody. So the producer just said, "Go, Ayo, enter studio." I was like, and that was it. And here I am.
I can imagine because Ayo used to produce my radio program as at one time.
We're talking about you right now, so let's start from there. So, I was going to take you up on this anyway.
Okay, no problem.
It was a question I asked Joker Silva when we hosted as well. Those of you on stage and on screen, we need to. There are those who believe that the culture of stage is dying to screen or has died to screen. The days of what do we call it? Itinerant stage acting, seems to be easing out or ebbing away. Yes, we see that stage is trying to come back on stream now. But what are your thoughts on that? On that,
I think it has a lot to do with the economy. It's not just. I don't think it's just for stage. I think a lot of things are not as they seem. For instance, even I, who am in this industry, if you ask me to choose between staying at home to watch a movie, sitting at home, Netflixing and chill, or going out to watch a stage play, I'll sit at home. I'll watch. You understand? I don't want to go through the stress of traffic. I don't want to go through the stress of all of that. The only reason I will come out is when I notice that there's a chance to do some networking. One, there are 1 or 2 people I want to go with. I want to hang out with one of my set of friends and all of that. Or the play looks interesting. I might not get the chance to watch it again. Then I will go. Otherwise, I'll say, should be one day to be on YouTube. Let's wait. That kind of thing. And that's what's happening. Let's be honest, that's what's happening. A lot of people didn't see the culture. They didn't see they were missing out the culture in stage. I'm telling you, sitting down and watching a stage play is not the same thing as watching it on television.
Absolutely not.
The thrill is just not there. The fact that you're not so far away from people who are there on stage and you're feeling the beat.
Yeah.
I haven't had chance to be much of an audience for stage performances, but the few that I have been have stayed. You can imagine that I remember the very first time I watched Joker Silva on stage.
Wow.
And this was in the 80s. I can tell you the play. I can tell you who she acted with. She acted with Mofe Damijo. She acted with Auntie Taiwo Ajayi Lycett. She acted with her husband, Olu Jacobs. And she played The King Must Dance Naked. That was the very first.
Wow.
So you can imagine that. I can remember that. But ask me the movie that I acted, I don't remember. So you see, there's something about it. If you want to pass a strong message, use a stage performance.
There was a culture I grew up with. I know that Joke has tons of questions. There's a culture I grew up with. Stage plays in schools. In fact, that was my own first stage experience.
Okay.
On stage, not as an audience. It was, incidentally, it was directed by Antalanio. And I came late to the rehearsals because I was just contacted and I showed up. And the day I showed up, he sacked the lead actor and made me lead.
See?
Incidentally, it was Funsho Adeolu that was leading the cast before I showed up. As soon as I showed up, he cast me as King Emene and cast Funsho as my main antagonist, so to speak. In that thing. So that play was taken to schools because it was one of those textbooks that the schools were using at the time. Do you think that's still something that we can use in this generation?
Oh, yes, it is. I even did something like that at one time. I had a troupe of young school leavers who were waiting to pass JAMB. I gathered them, and we went round schools. Sizwe Bansi is dead. A lot of those kinds of plays that they need to pass, as at that time, and it helped them, and it still does. You understand? The fact that you have actors coming to use your school hall to perform, there's one excitement there. And they're going to perform for you. The second excitement, oh wow, it's just for us, it's our school and all of that. We're going to see this, we're going to see this person, and then you get to hear that it is a play of a book that's required for them to pass. And they know that the teacher is going to ask them questions afterwards. They'll pay attention.
Wow.
They'll pay attention. And it works all the time.
Interesting. I can't. You want to go? Okay. I can't wait. For us to educate this generation about that. And I think that's where this whole thing is. I know you are still on stage. You're still going to talk about whatever you're doing on stage now. But in educating them, stage is not quote unquote fancy, so to speak, for them. But you said what they are losing, what they are missing, we're losing a culture.
Yes.
Broadway is still big.
Broadway is still awesome.
Exactly. Now, whether or not they learnt it from us or we learnt it from them, I don't know. But we learnt it. We have it. So how do we sustain that culture, right, for this generation? So that they can know it, because it's one of the ways in which we can hand over to the next generation cultures and the traditions that we have.
The easiest way is to pump money into it in one way or the other. We have Ministry of Culture and Tourism. I mean, what are they doing? Don't they realize that they can get a lot? They can get a lot from those of us who are willing to, work on stage. They can get a lot from us. And then, of course, the diverse culture that we have in Nigeria. They finish. Make I put it like that. They finish. You want to talk about the Calabari River State culture? You want to talk about the Calabar Cross River, the Igbos, the Yoruba? The Yoruba culture is not one, no. Ogun State is different from Osun State. Do you understand? The Bata dance is different. Right there in Badagry, it's Yoruba they are speaking, but it's different. All the dances, all that culture. I mean, our children need to see this. They need to. What are they doing with Shakespeare now?
But how do we cook that? How do we cook that in a way that they will be able to buy it? Because once many of these young people see these cultures, they look like it's not tush. It's not tush. So how do we package it in a way that? Because interestingly, the people that they are trying to copy are loving.
They're loving it. They are loving it. The thing about it is, don't package it. Give it to them the way it is, and make sure they try and understand and respect it. I mean, like I was talking about the very first play I went to watch, I took my juniors with me. Until today, we talk about it. We talk about the song and the dance. My junior sister, who is in her 40s, as at that time was maybe about 12 or 13, still remembers the songs. Wow. She sings them to her children. Wow. You understand? Don't package it. Give it to us the way it's meant to be given, raw. But open up their eyes. Let them see it. Okay. Let them see that this is Yoruba culture. This is how the culture is. This is how the dance is. And no matter what, there's something about the drums. It must wake you up. Yes.
You talked about government pumping a lot of money into it. Now, one of the challenges of stage is its itinerant nature, mobility. You take this play. We have taken a play from church here in Lagos to Benue, to Boko, in Benue State. Same play, same cast. Now, that's one of the challenges that Mr. Kesova, when we hosted it, that's one of the challenges that she raised.
Yes.
You know, the fact that you have to pay the actors everywhere you take them to. They are doing four performances. You have to pay for each of those stages. But if it's one film, just give them a tape. You already settled them.
Yeah, and that's why I would charge you more for a movie than I would charge you for a stage play, because I already know what it is. If you're taking this out of, if we're having 2 shows, for instance, I know it's 2 shows and that's it. Except if I find out you're recording for YouTube, then we talk differently. So those are the things that people see. Those are the things that actors see and they say. And for television or for film, it can go far and wide, but stage is right there and then. And it's better for you to come watch it and enjoy it. Is it a taste? Is it the taste of the culture? What is it? Better for you to feel the rawness of it than for you to watch it on TV. There's something about TV that's so, impersonal.
Yeah.
You get?
Yeah.
Than when it is here on stage.
So what was your favorite moment on stage? Your favorite part that you played?
Oh, I've had so many. I've once acted Professor Femi Osofison's Women of Owu. I played the lead, Erelu.
Okay.
That was my very first Yoruba stage. And I'm not Yoruba, so it took me a while. But I got into it. And I wasn't old, but I had to play an old woman.
Right.
So one of his issues I will never forget was, "You are too young. Try and
calm down a little."
I was able to, and now I understand. I didn't understand then. Now that I'm older, I understand what he's talking about. But I think that was one of my favorite because it ran for a long time, for about 2 weeks at the National Theatre, and then we went all the way to Owu to perform for former President Chief Obasanjo. And so I have such awesome memories of that.
I can't imagine. I really can't imagine it.
And there's a culture on stage that's very, very personal.
Yes.
Film, you can take your own shot, another person will come and take his own shot later. But stage, all of you know. Right there and then.
Right there and then.
Right there and then, and all of that.
Yeah.
So, what are the benefits of stage for a society?
Oh, major benefits. Quite obvious. The major benefit is to pass the messages across. You want things to change, pass it through stage. Make it a big deal. Yes, we all use television, but these days with light situation and the rest, why don't you bring them out? Remember when we were all growing up and it used to be an outing to go to the National Theatre, right?
Yeah.
So if we had enough plays talking about the different government programs going on, even if it's short stage skits, even if it's short 20 minutes, 30 minutes, on stage, you pass the message faster. Absolutely. You want people to stop throwing dirt on the road. We're not doing enough talk about it. You can use your stage actors to do that. plan a good stage production and put all these little elements in it. Let's be honest, those are the easiest way. Today, remember the days when we're talking about Andrew checking out? Do you understand? But there's so many people who remember. They probably don't remember the story, but they remember Andrew that's checking out, who says it was a stage production.
Yeah.
You understand? Before it went on to television. So those are the things that we can use stage performances for.
So let's tell us about your current stage stuff. See the way she's smiling.
Excuse me. I'm smiling because, hey, this one, they challenge me. This one, they challenge me because it's a deeply personal story. A bit of my story is in it, and that's why it's a challenge. I do not act myself. I don't think I would be a good actor if I have to act myself.
Yeah.
The only thing is I have to remember. I have to have memories and all of that. So this one is challenging me in the sense that I see bits of myself in the story. Wow. And I'm having to get it out of my system.
Yeah.
But then I'm turning it around, trying to empathize with the character. Duro is deeply personal. Duro is not something to play with. Duro is something that we need to push to the world. And it saddens me that it's only 2 days performance.
Wow.
It's only on the 18th and 19th of this month, July. I wish we could take this as far as possible. And that's why I was talking about needing enough sponsorship for things like this.
Yeah.
You understand? The private investors really cannot afford to put stage performances on the road and all of that. But there are so many awesome stories that can get out there with some kind of sponsorship. And Duro is one of them. Yeah. I'm acting a mother in Duro. That day I go end down. Because you see, if I talk more, I'm going to tell you the whole story. I know good. You're supposed to go watch out. But basically, yes, I'm playing a mother and I have a daughter. And there are things that occurred there that people should come and see. The thing about this story is there's a lot of history. Then there's a lot of music and dance and there's sadness. And you will empathize with the characters. You would fall in love with the characters. You would hate some of the characters. So you will go through the gamut of emotions for Duro. And Duro is not a television story. It's a stage story. Yeah.
Okay. I think it is... let me also be safe because I know that the marketing department is watching right now.
Uh-oh. You asked me. I told you. I told you.
But you just said it's Duro, right? And it's for 2 days.
Yeah.
If you want more information about that, please go online. I cannot come and can. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. After this, what should we be? Because we always raise issues, Joker. We always raise issues about mentorship for upcoming actors and actresses. Do you have anything like that?
Oh, I've had that all the while. People like Auntie Joker mentored me, for instance. Okay. She's my major role model, you know, even personally, you know, not just her work. And so I've always tried to give back also. Yeah. Like I said, I had a troupe, you know, young, you know, school leavers, and I still do stuff like that. There was a time I was training even children. While my husband was training the adults, I was training the children. And I've helped a lot of young kids who had issues articulating themselves. Yes. So I do that all the time, all the time.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah. So you are on Instagram, Abby?
Yes, of course.
They are coming to meet you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much.
Veteran Nigerian actress, one-time journalist, etc. Gloria Young. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful.
Yes, and that's the show today. Just to also say that there may be live coverage right now. The flag off of a lithium processing plant in Zamfara State. That's on other platform. But in the meantime, If you want to continue watching us, regular programming, stay here. Otherwise, on our YouTube channel, you'll find this there. Until then, thank you so much for the privilege of being a part of your Saturday morning. I'm Ayo Makinde.
And I'm Joke Rogers.